Welcome to Let's Connect Greater Portland, a show about the changes and the challenges we face and the great things that people are doing to make Greater Portland a fantastic place to live, work, and play. I'm Kristina Egan, your host. Today, we're speaking with Nat Tupper and Bill Shane, two public servants who have dedicated their careers to their respective municipalities. After 32 years of dedicated service, Nat Tupper, Yarmouth's town manager since 1991, is retiring next week. And Bill Shane, the town manager of Cumberland, is retiring in June after 21 years of service. Both managers are fixtures of wisdom and experience in our region, and they've also left a lasting impression on the communities that they've served. Nat has diversified the tax base as revenues from the Wyman power plant have steadily declined. He's preserved open space, and he has supported a beautiful village. If you haven't been to the Yarmouth village, you should be there anytime for dinner, walking around, going to the library. It's gorgeous. And Bill has been working to preserve open space and promote affordable housing. He oversaw the succession of Chebeague Island from Cumberland. And he also has founded a food pantry with his wife that serves many, many people in need in the Cumberland area. I really wanted to have this show because I have had the pleasure of working with both Bill and Nat for the time since I started at the Greater Portland Council of Governments. And I'm going to miss both of you so much. And can't wait to share some of what you've learned and some of the contributions you've made to the region. Town managers are often kind of like a behind-the-scenes role, and I think of you as both like the keel of a boat, making sure that the community stays steady, but also at the rudder to make sure that you're going to get to shore eventually, you know, and help the electeds kind of work through a lot of complicated and difficult issues as they're balancing their priorities. So I just want to welcome you. Welcome, Nat. So good to have you.
It was great to be here, and I know this show's not about you, but you've been such a big part of what we've been able to accomplish and what the region's been able to do. It's great to be here with you.
Thank you. And Bill, so great to have you in the studio. It seems like a long time since I saw you, so it's great to see your face.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, great. Well, let's start with asking you, like, why did you guys get into municipal service? I mean, it's sometimes a thankless job. It's often one where you do get a lot of appreciation from your residents. But when you first were starting your careers, can you remember why you started? Nat, I'll ask you.
Well, yes, I can remember. Unfortunately, it's because I'm not that good at math, so I tried to avoid all the math classes in business school, and then I decided to switch over to public administration for studies. Got introduced to a lot of great ideas and was influenced quite a bit by some of the veterans in the field. Well, I hate to admit it, but George Campbell was one of them who came to speak to our student group. And I remember him talking about wanting to make a difference in the life of the community more than he cared about the quality of a shoe he might build. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I get it. I really do. And that's sort of how I have viewed things ever since, is how can I make a difference?
And we know that so many of the young people out there are looking at this rapidly changing world, want to make some kind of a difference. And probably municipal service isn't top of their mind as the way to do it. But you found that through your career, you have been able to make that difference.
I hope I have. I certainly have made it my goal, and I feel like there's been a lot of good accomplishment. And I agree, a lot of folks, young folks now that I know, have very broad, noble ideas, and many of the local elected officials now I share that too, and the less about the delivery of local community services, but making a huge, almost global impact. I've kidded some folks that it wasn't that long ago that we had town councilors who would not take up issues like a resolution dealing with any world affairs, or nuclear proliferation was one that came up, and they just said, no, we do dog poop in the park, and not very well. Nobody elected us to talk about that. To today, where my town councilors, for the most part, are pretty interested in trying to save the world, and that's a great noble thing. I wish they didn't think it could be done by Tuesday, but
yeah. The whole act locally when you're thinking globally.
Yeah, there's a lot of global thinking now, and a lot of altruism and just this great public spirit of wanting to make a big difference and seeing a big difference is needed.
So, Bill, I'm going to ask you to do the same rewind to when you started in municipal service. What was it that inspired you to jump in?
That's a great question because I've been thinking about that coming here and all week in preparation of this, and I think it was wanted to make a difference. I started in Wiscasset. Nat and I worked together when I went to Yarmouth as their town engineer for almost 13 years, and it really was exciting. Every day was different, and I always liked my job. I just liked working with people. I liked getting from point A to point B, and I liked the planning and Nat was a great mentor for me. He was. I mean, we did a lot of great work together. I think of some of the amazing projects we did in Brickyard Hollow and the funding you were able to secure from the federal government, which was a miracle that we were able to do that because it was just a way of life that I had never experienced because I started my life as a civil engineer and I'm a licensed engineer in the state of Maine and I was in construction. I thought I was going to be in construction my whole life because I loved building stuff. And then when I started in the municipality arena, it just was exciting, and it still is exciting. I enjoy getting up every day, going to work, and making a difference. And it's not easy a lot of times. And when the hard stuff comes in, like right now, we're going through a lot of difficult things because they're tough things. They're tough things to do. Affordable housing is not an easy task, but I always have to remember the number of people that are behind all this that do support what we're trying to do, and they'll come out when it's important, when votes are taken, and when basically they need to show up at a meeting. It's easy to get them to come. So I'm just amazed by people. I love working with them. They surprise me all the time, and I'm excited to see what's next because this has been a great ride. It really has. And Nat's been a great mentor. He's been a great friend and somebody that was always around when I needed something. So it's good. And the network of managers that we have in the greater Portland area are just awesome. They're just so talented and they're so giving of their time. Everybody's willing to jump in if you have a problem. So
Yeah,
cool.
I was really struck by kind of the network that exists here and the relationships between the different town managers and different municipalities, like always willing to share experiences, support each other, have a little therapy sometimes, right? But also even share staff, share equipment. I saw that during the pandemic, people coming together, even sharing snowplow drivers, which is so important. For those of you who are listening, I want to remind you that you're listening to Let's Connect Greater Portland at WMPG. I'm talking today with Nat Tupper, who is Yarmouth's town manager, and Bill Shane, who is Cumberland's town manager, both of who are retiring this year, a big loss to the region. And they want to know, what would it take to get you to apply for a job at a municipality or even to step up and decide to run for elected office and serve a municipality? So if you have a thought about what would make you do that and help contribute at the local level, please call in at 780-4909. Again, 780-4909. So I would like to talk to you guys a little bit more about what it's like to work in a municipality. Like, what's a week in a life of a manager? And I know, just because I've been working with you for so long, it varies a lot. It depends on the time of year, on the issue. But if you were to explain to folks out there about what your daily life is like, how would you start? And Bill, I'll start with you.
Throw away any plan or any schedule you have because it never works out that way. Oftentimes you go in with a very specific task. We're going to get through this project or start on this project, and the day changes almost immediately when you walk in, and that's okay. And that's part of it's never time to make the donuts. Let's put it that way. It's never a repetitious day. It's always something different, and it's that engagement that really makes it different. I enjoy the people part. Most people come to my office without an appointment. They just show up and we sit down, we talk, and we usually try to work out a problem or a question or just a concern some people will have, and they'll at least walk away feeling like their government is supporting them. And that's always been, I learned that from him, and that's always done that. And the more you can engage with people directly, I think it's important. I think the hardest part of it is basically mentoring your own employees and training them to be the next leaders in their fields, or gaining more professional accreditation in whatever their specialty is, because the more they can network and bring back to your community, the better your community is. And I've always supported my staff being, pushing their limits a little bit, and they have. And I've always loved watching that. So for me, it's it's the mentoring part is very special, but the day-to-day stuff is always different. And to try to make a typical day it's turning the lights on, making the coffee, and just making sure everybody's safe. That's about as consistent as it gets. And then after that, it just hang on. So,
and Bill, I love the philosophy that you also bring to that office when people come and visit you. You have this mug that you often give to me when I come in, which says "No drama, llama."
No drama llama mugs.
No drama llama mugs. Yeah. So Nat, how about your typical week? Can you give it any structure, or are you just kind of in a reactive, what's going to happen, who's going to walk in your office mode the whole week? Also.
I'm both, but I have to preface this to let you know that most of the managers in the greater Portland region are taking a big sigh of relief with Bill's retirement.
Why is that?
Bill has been setting a standard of work ethic and time in office and time working that sort of makes us all feel a little bit of ashamed of ourselves.
Yeah, when he said not making the coffee, I know Bill is up at 5 o'clock making the coffee.
Bill's probably out picking the coffee beans first. Everybody knows it, and many of us do try to emulate it, but I'm too weak to keep up with him. But I do put a lot of hours in, and it's never hard work in that sense that I think hard work might mean to other folks. It's engaging work. It sucks your mind, to total concentration on one thing or another, or listening to folks. And that's always a challenge to be focused on what's going on and open at the same time to, things that you otherwise might miss. But so the hours are long. There's lots of meetings. Time, the job has changed with time, probably because of age and experience, but also the environment and the expectations are so different.
In what way, Nat?
Well, cynicism, I think, is part of it, and the division in our country over everything, and the license people have to be divisive and take sides and all that sort of stuff.
And be rude. We've heard a lot of that.
It is. I'll have to say, I know from my own community there are moments of that, and as Bill pointed out, you focus on the fact that 95% of the time, people are really nice.
Yeah.
People are trying to get to a reasonable solution. They're listening to each other. So it takes so little to make it feel so big, of the negativity. So that's different. It's not quite as fun as it used to be. Of course, when I got started, there wasn't any computers or emails, so life was different. It was a lot more about relationships. And I'm very fortunate when I came to Yarmouth. I already had 10 years of municipal management before I get to Yarmouth. But I walked in the door, and the first guy I meet is Bill Shane, and they don't come more competent or more confident. Sometimes I teased him about your confidence is outrunning your competence, but not by much. And it's just delightful. But again, the staff that you work with, the relationships you have, it really makes it worthwhile, because together you make things that make a difference.
Yeah. And, I imagine there are folks out there that are trying to figure out what way to go in their career right now, and often municipal careers are not really thought that much about. Maybe you think about, I could be part of the police force or be part of fire, but municipalities do so many things. What would you say to somebody who's considering what career path to take when you think about a municipal career? Maybe, Bill, I could start with you, because you started in construction.
Yeah, exactly. I started in construction, and I saw the town engineer in Wiscasset's job that was opening, and I took that, and 3 years later, Yarmouth's town engineer job came open, and I jumped on that. And I think just put yourself out there. Just don't sell yourself short on just because you have a specific skill set. I think you can go in a lot of different directions. When I first came, I think I might have been the first manager that was a civil engineer, and now we have police chiefs that have become managers and town clerks that became managers. I remember when Deb Cabana was the manager in Gray, and she and I we talked a lot about elections, because she was the election czar in my mind as far as managers were concerned, because she was just a great, great lady. So I don't think you should just not, I'm not a X, Y, or Z. Just go in, talk to somebody, and see if there's a place for you, because we're always looking for good people. So we'll figure it out over time, and that name will come back and say, hey, we have an opening here. Why don't you come in and try this? And oftentimes that's a great way to open the doors for people. It's difficult to, intern right in college sometimes because you don't know really what you want to do. But after that, there are a lot of different avenues, from, town clerks to town planners to public works directors and highway foremen and park superintendents. There's tons of opportunities in, I'd say, the medium-sized to larger municipalities is probably a little easier. The smaller towns are, everybody's wearing 72 hats, and that's a little harder to kind of pick that up. But the larger the town, I think the easier it might be to fit in. But I would walk up to any door and say, hey, I have an interest. Give me a call if you have anything you think I might fit into.
I think it depends a lot on what the person's basic interests are. Obviously, if they're interested in construction or equipment operations, something like that, you're going to steer them in a different direction than if they wanted to be a municipal planner or a police officer or a library or librarian or something. So that really makes a difference. But it's such. I mean, if I could come back, I'd come back as a wastewater treatment plant operator.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that.
It lasts a week.
It is actually fascinating field, wastewater.
Yeah, it is. But again, I'm terrible at math kind of issues, so I'd wash out. But
literally.
Yeah, quite so. But if we're thinking about young professionals with idealism and who really want to make a difference in public service, then I think Bill's absolutely right. There are so many different ways that one can make a difference and contribute something, and it's really not hard to be heard and to assume some leadership, particularly in the smaller towns, because once you gain basic competencies and trust of the people around you, they're going to look to you to say, lead us, tell us which way to go, help us figure this out. So to me, it's just been a tremendous rewarding experience, because things that I had no idea what to do, how to go about it, in a relatively short amount of time, you're looked to as the expert that can help out. And I was like, really? I don't know anything about buses, but suddenly, you're there on the bus committee and sorting it all out. And so I would say if somebody can tell us what they're interested in, we can point them in the direction where municipal government has a place for them and needs them.
Well, environmental sciences and sustainability are things that were never on most of our radars 5 years ago. I mean, it started to creep up, and we talked about it, but now we have climate action plans, and we have solar fields that, are basically supplying all the electricity for our towns, and things that, we thought were pie in the sky 10 years ago, perhaps, now are reality, and they're actually working well for our communities. So that's why I would have never thought about talking to a sustainability person 5 years ago, and today I'm very interested. So it's
that's your fault,
changes.
By the way.
That's your fault. Well, that's what's great about the Greater Portland Council of Governments. It gives us opportunities to pull different ideas and start thinking about the region instead of our own small little corner of the world. So it's been good for Cumberland, that's for sure. GPCOG all the way through, and your staff is unbelievable, Kristina. We work with Sarah a lot on sustainability, and she's amazing. We work with your housing people; they're amazing. Matt's done a great job for you. There's so many good people there. You could spend the show just on your staff, but they have supported us in so many ways that we don't have to hire consultants, because we can pick up the phone and we know 30 consultants. Which is very cool.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to be singing Kumbaya, because I feel so grateful to work with all the managers, and also so grateful to work with the team that we have at GPCOG. But let's talk a little bit about what a municipality's role is in the region. And then I want to turn to what you're each most proud of, about what you've accomplished actually in Cumberland and Yarmouth. But let's start regionally. And Nat, could you talk a little bit about how you see Yarmouth fitting into the region, and what kind of role a municipality has vis-a-vis the region?
Sure, and it's grown tremendously in the last 15 years or so. I would say, as Bill was saying, there was a time not long ago where those were sort of external things where town councilors that you needed to get out from underneath, you assign them to go to the regional boards or something.
Yeah, here's your booby prize. Right?
I'm joking. We have some great people that have served in the past, but I've had the great pleasure of working with PACS and GP-COG, and I've not spent much time with Maine. Bill and others have, and that's because I had elected leaders who took a great interest in it, and I've always felt like I should step aside and let the elected leaders do that when they're interested.
And Maine, of course, is the regional waste treatment facility and recycling facility,
Yeah.
and actually grew out of regional collaboration that started at the table in my conference room, but a long time ago, and under incredible leadership there with Kevin Roche.
Yeah. No, it's we should be all pretty darn proud of what's getting accomplished in the region, and now in the last few years I've been involved with the Metro, the Greater Portland Transit District, and helping make that work too. Work for my community, but also work for the region. I think what's changed is the vision of the elected officials and the citizens, but the elected officials in particular, are no longer, none of them would ever say, oh, we just do dog poop in the park.
Right.
They see their role as creating a community, and there's no way to think about our towns as the community. You have to think about it as the larger community of at least Greater Portland, if not the world, but particularly Greater Portland. So people now who want to lead and participate in municipal government in the policy direction really are looking way beyond our capabilities and say, how can we make a bigger difference? How can we participate? So, yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's great. And how about for Cumberland? How do you see Cumberland's role in the region?
Well, honestly, it was difficult to get started. We kind of jumped in the middle of a dispatch study that when I got on board, that we were doing regionally with a bunch of towns, 5 or 6 towns, and that was our
for
first.
Emergency services, trying to see how you
Exactly.
could cooperate around
Right.
that. Yeah.
And that was an interesting group. But what I think happened along the way, we were really building a positive relationship with all our neighbors, and then the pandemic hit, and everything shut down, and we haven't really jump-started that back up again. And to be successful, I need to know who you are. I need to know my neighbor from Freeport. I need to know my neighbor from Falmouth, because it's easy to say no when you don't know the people.
Yeah.
It's really hard to say no when you just met with them or you just had a 3-hour meeting about whatever issue was on the table. And we've taken it probably further than many communities, and we basically had a referendum vote on combining the Falmouth and Cumberland school districts. And Cumberland residents passed it almost 70-30, but Falmouth residents killed it 70-30. Mm-hmm. But it's hard. Those are the harder issues to put out there. We've done a lot of collaboration since then that is all behind the scenes, from animal control officers to mutual aid between communities, between fire, police, and all those things. And even during the pandemic, I was doing the front counter work for Falmouth for 2 weeks because our clerks were sick.
Yeah.
So and then Nathan Poor, the manager there, I was running the problems with inspections that I couldn't keep up, and his staff supplemented my staff. So it's a phone call away, and it's how do we fix it? Not how do we make a 22-page contract. It's more about what do you need, and he and I are the worst at making contracts, so just come and we'll figure it out.
I'll do it.
Got a contract.
Cover my costs. I'll do it.
I'll do it. Just tell me what you need, and we'll figure it out later. And that's the honest truth, in that we've always been able to figure it out and work together, and that's what I think this area is so special about. But I've reached out when Dave Cole was in Gorham and Tony Plant was in Wyndham. We'd meet occasionally as well because we had common properties that bordered both our towns. So there's so much you can do regionally, and it doesn't take that much time. It really is actually probably one of the more rewarding parts of the job, when you get to kind of expand your own vision out into the region and really get people excited about what you're trying to do. And we've done a lot of cool things, and I'm just excited that a lot of that still continues. So
and we have such a rapidly changing world, and always budget pressure, and so finding ways to share, collaborate, share best practices, do things more efficiently, has to happen in order for us to really be strong as a region. Yeah. So, okay, we only have a few minutes left, and I definitely want to hear what you're really proud of that you helped accomplish. I know it would involve lots of other people, but what's something that's particularly going to make you feel great when you retire? For you next week, Nat.
I know. Yeah, well, that's going to feel great all by itself. It's actually going to be pretty bittersweet. I know that question is a fair question, and I've had quite a bit of time to think about it, and I don't know how to answer it. And in part because there are so many things and so many great memories and moments when you just had that, yes, we'd got this done kind of feel. So what will last with me forever, of course, is the relationships I have with staff and some of the elected officials and a lot of citizens and, and friends and peers. But in terms of specific outcomes, I think getting Yarmouth to rejoin Metro was kind of a highlight because it was sort of more than symbolic. It was a real change into a regional approach, but also to recognizing the town itself had to serve residents in a way that it hadn't for many years.
Yeah, and that, of course, is our bus agency, Metro.
Yeah. There were a lot of other things. We did so many projects. We built so many, all the schools 2-3 times it feels like, and ball fields, and put together a lot of open space and things that are great, and which survived some really tough circumstances, which is not one of those happy memories, but is one of those accomplishments. It's a great success. So there's a lot, and there's so much yet to be done. But I don't know how to answer that question other than all of it.
Oh, I love that. And Bill, you don't have much time to answer this question, but what do you think?
Well, yeah, most of you that work with me, I'm very much into infrastructure, so I'm the pave it to save it guy. So when I basically got a land trust award from our local land trust, it's quite ironic that the guy who's paving the town is the one getting the award. But we have over 1,000 acres now in open space in Cumberland, and it's very special. And Broad Cove was very special. It was Cumberland's access to the shore. Now we have over several thousand feet, when before we had 50 feet of access for a shore. 3 miles of, coastline. It's kind of hard to say you had no public access. So that was really special, really hard. 8 lawsuits later, 2 at the Maine Law Court, and we made it.
Persistence.
But we knew going into it, it was hard. So that was very special, and I think people over time have really come to appreciate it and see that it was worth the fight, and it really was. So, that is special. So, and working with this guy for a long time has been real special too. So, Nat and I go back a long way, and he's always been there. And he's one of the greatest friends I've had in municipal government, and probably one of the greatest mentors I've ever had as well. So
you guys will be hanging out once you've retired, I can tell.
Yeah,
what else are you going to do?
I'm going to have to learn to play golf.
Oh, you're play golf in Valhalla. Yeah, and what else are you going to do with all the time?
Yeah, that's a great question. My wife's very worried about that.
We both have grandchildren. I'm trying to keep up with them. I'm up to 4 now, so I've got 4 granddaughters, so I'm pretty excited about that, and it's going to be good. It's probably about 4 or 5 more years of doing something, but I don't know what that is. So.
Yeah. My goal was to change my mindset and my whole internal schedule of how I approach things, so I'm not. My family's all betting that I'll drive into the town hall at Saturday morning after retirement. I'll be there the next morning at 7 a.m. as usual. And, so I'm going to have to put sticky notes in the car so I don't do that.
Turn around. Well, Nat, it's been so great having you. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having us.
And Bill, you too. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Kristina.
I'm going to be thinking about you all the time. And you're still on my speed dials. Thank you. All right. That was really fun.
Well, good.
It's over.
Okay,
I didn't mean any of it.